Have you ever started walking every day, stepped on the scale a few weeks later, and felt completely discouraged? Maybe you expected to lose several pounds, only to discover that the number barely changed. It is one of the biggest reasons people give up on walking. They believe their body simply isn't responding. They assume their metabolism is too slow, that they are getting older, or that walking just isn't powerful enough to make a difference. But what if the scale is hiding the most important change? What if, long before your body becomes visibly smaller, one of the most important hormones in your entire metabolism has already begun improving? That hormone is insulin. Most people think walking is successful only when it leads to rapid weight loss. They judge every walk by one number on the bathroom scale. If the number goes down, they believe walking is working. If it stays the same, they assume they are wasting their time. The human body doesn't work that way. Your metabolism is far more intelligent than your scale. Weight is simply the total mass of everything inside your body at a particular moment. It includes fat, muscle, water, glycogen, food, inside your digestive system, and even temporary inflammation. It can fluctuate by several pounds in a single day without reflecting any meaningful improvement or any meaningful setback. Insulin is different. Unlike body weight, insulin tells a much deeper story about how efficiently your body is handling energy. Every time you eat carbohydrates, your pancreas releases insulin to help move glucose from your bloodstream into your cells. When your body becomes healthier, it often needs less insulin to accomplish the exact same job. And surprisingly, daily walking can begin improving that process much sooner than it changes your appearance. This is why many people experience better energy, fewer sugar cravings, steadier blood sugar, and improved laboratory results before they notice significant weight loss. Their metabolism is becoming healthier from the inside out, even if the mirror and the scale haven't caught up yet. That doesn't mean fat loss isn't happening. It simply means your body has priorities. Before dramatically changing body composition, it often repairs the systems responsible for managing energy. It improves communication between muscles and insulin. It stabilizes blood sugar. It reduces unnecessary stress on the pancreas. It teaches your cells to respond more efficiently to glucose. These invisible improvements create the foundation for healthier long-term fat loss. So if you've ever become frustrated because your daily walks didn't immediately make the scale move, today's video may completely change how you measure progress. Because the first major victory of walking isn't always losing weight. Sometimes, the biggest victory is something you can't see at all. To understand why that happens, we first need to understand what insulin actually does inside your body, and why improving insulin sensitivity may be even more important than losing a few pounds. To understand why walking can change insulin before it changes body weight, we need to stop thinking of insulin as only a blood sugar hormone. Insulin certainly helps control blood sugar, but that is only one part of its job. Insulin is really an energy management hormone. It tells the body what to do with fuel after food enters the bloodstream. When you eat a meal containing carbohydrates, those carbohydrates are broken down into glucose. Glucose enters the blood, and your pancreas responds by releasing insulin. Insulin acts like a key that helps glucose move into cells, especially muscle cells. Some of that glucose is used immediately for energy. Some is stored as glycogen in the muscles and liver. If the body already has more energy than it needs, insulin also encourages storage. Over time, when excess energy is repeated day after day, this storage pressure can contribute to fat gain, especially around the abdomen and inside organs. Insulin also sends an important message to fat cells. When insulin is high, the body is less likely to release stored fat. This makes sense from a survival perspective. If food has just arrived, the body does not need to open its long-term energy storage. It can use or store the incoming fuel first. But if insulin stays high too often because of frequent snacking, high-sugar meals, inactivity, poor sleep, or insulin resistance, fat cells remain in a storage-friendly state for much longer than they should. Insulin resistance begins when cells stop responding well to insulin's message. At first, blood sugar may still look normal, because the pancreas simply produces more insulin to force glucose into the cells. This is why someone can have normal blood sugar on a routine test, but still have high insulin working behind the scenes. The body is keeping glucose under control, but it is doing so by pushing the pancreas harder and harder. Over time, this becomes a metabolic problem. Muscles become less efficient at taking up glucose. The liver may continue producing glucose when it does not need to. The pancreas has to release more insulin after meals. Fat cells stay more locked. Energy levels rise and crash. Cravings increase. Belly fat becomes harder to lose. And yet, for a long time, the scale may not fully reveal what is happening internally. This is where walking becomes powerful. When you walk, your muscles contract again and again. These contractions create a pathway for glucose to enter muscle cells that does not depend as heavily on insulin. Tiny glucose transporters called GLUT4 move toward the surface of muscle cells, almost like doors opening to allow glucose in. This means the muscles can absorb glucose from the bloodstream during and after walking, even when insulin levels are lower. That single mechanism changes everything. As glucose moves into working muscles, blood sugar can fall more smoothly. Because muscles are doing more of the work, the pancreas does not need to release as much insulin to manage the same amount of glucose. The liver also receives a healthier signal. Instead of being pressured by excess blood sugar and high insulin, it can balance glucose production and storage more effectively. Over time, repeated walking teaches your muscles to become better glucose sinks. They store glycogen more efficiently. Their mitochondria become more active. Blood flow improves. Inflammation may decrease. The entire body gradually becomes more insulin sensitive. This can happen before major weight loss because insulin sensitivity is a functional change, not just a size change. Your cells can become better at handling glucose even while your total body weight remains almost the same. A person may weigh 190 pounds before walking and still weigh 190 pounds 2 weeks later. But inside the body, their muscles may already be absorbing glucose more efficiently. Their pancreas may be releasing less insulin, and their blood sugar may be staying steadier after meals. That is why daily walking is so valuable for metabolic health. It does not have to wait for dramatic weight loss to begin helping you. It starts improving the way your body manages fuel almost immediately. And once you understand this biology, the timeline becomes even more interesting. The changes begin during the first walk, continue for hours afterward, and become stronger over weeks and months of daily movement. Now let's follow the timeline of what actually happens after you begin walking every day. One of the biggest misconceptions about metabolism is that all improvements happen at the same time. In reality, your body changes in stages. Some adaptations begin within minutes, while others take weeks or even months to become noticeable. Understanding this timeline helps explain why insulin often improves long before the number on the scale does. The moment you begin your walk, your muscles immediately start contracting. Every contraction requires energy, and the demand for ATP increases almost instantly. At first, your muscles use stored ATP and glycogen, but they also begin pulling glucose from the bloodstream. Something remarkable happens inside the muscle cells during these first few minutes. GLUT4 transporters move toward the cell surface, opening additional pathways for glucose to enter. Unlike the usual process that depends heavily on insulin, muscle contraction itself helps drive glucose into the cells. This means your muscles become active glucose consumers almost immediately. As glucose leaves the bloodstream and enters the muscles, your pancreas no longer needs to work as hard. Instead of releasing large amounts of insulin to force glucose into resistant cells, it can begin reducing insulin output because the muscles are already doing much of the work naturally. During the first 10 minutes, you may not notice anything unusual. Your breathing becomes slightly deeper. Your heart beats a little faster. Your legs feel warmer as circulation improves. From the outside, everything appears ordinary. Inside your body, however, the conversation between your muscles, pancreas, liver, and bloodstream has already changed. As the walk continues into the 10 to 30-minute range, these changes become even more meaningful. Your heart pumps more efficiently, delivering oxygen-rich blood to working muscles. Blood vessels widen, improving circulation throughout the body. Muscle cells continue removing glucose from the bloodstream while relying less on insulin. If you started walking after a meal, this process can significantly reduce the size of the blood sugar spike that normally follows eating. The liver also changes its behavior. Since muscles are absorbing glucose efficiently, The liver does not need to release as much additional glucose into the bloodstream. Glycogen storage and glucose production become more balanced. Instead of reacting to unstable blood sugar levels, the liver can operate under calmer metabolic conditions. Meanwhile, your insulin response becomes smoother. Rather than producing a large hormonal surge, the pancreas often requires less insulin to achieve the same result. This is one of the earliest signs that your metabolism is becoming more efficient, even though you cannot see it in the mirror. Between 30 and 45 minutes, your body reaches a steady aerobic rhythm. Breathing becomes comfortable and controlled. The cardiovascular system delivers oxygen efficiently. Mitochondria inside muscle cells are now producing energy from both glucose and fatty acids. Blood sugar remains relatively stable because muscles continue removing glucose while the liver carefully balances its own glucose output. At this stage, insulin levels may remain lower than they would have if you had remained sedentary. The body is no longer relying entirely on insulin to move glucose. Muscle contraction has become a powerful partner in maintaining healthy blood sugar. Then something surprising happens after the walk is over. Many people assume the benefits stop the moment they sit down. They don't. For several hours after exercise, your muscles remain more insulin sensitive. If you eat your next meal during this period, glucose can enter muscle cells more efficiently than it would have before the walk. As a result, the pancreas may once again need less insulin to manage that meal. This extended window of improved insulin sensitivity is one reason why daily walking has such a powerful cumulative effect on metabolic health. Now let's move forward 1 to 2 weeks. Many people still see very little change on the scale. This often leads to frustration. But inside the body, important improvements are already underway. Blood sugar fluctuations become smaller. Afternoon energy crashes may become less common. Sugar cravings often begin decreasing because glucose regulation has become more stable. Some people notice they no longer feel overwhelmingly sleepy after meals. Others realize they can go longer between meals without feeling desperate for snacks. These changes are not psychological. They reflect genuine improvements in insulin efficiency and glucose handling. By 4 to 8 weeks, the picture becomes even more encouraging. Fasting blood glucose may begin improving. The waistline may slowly start shrinking, even if body weight changes only modestly. Resting heart rate often becomes lower as cardiovascular fitness improves. Muscles become noticeably better at storing glycogen and using glucose efficiently. Daily activities require less effort because the body has become more metabolically flexible. At this stage, many people finally begin noticing visible changes, but those external improvements are actually the result of weeks of invisible biological adaptation. Now imagine continuing the habit for 3 to 6 months. The body has repeated this healthy metabolic pattern hundreds of times. Muscles have become significantly more insulin sensitive. Mitochondria are more numerous and more efficient. The liver manages glucose with less stress. Visceral fat gradually becomes easier to mobilize. The pancreas no longer needs to overproduce insulin after every meal. Blood sugar remains more stable throughout the day, and weight often begins shifting more noticeably, because the metabolic foundation has already been repaired. This timeline teaches one of the most important lessons in metabolic health. Weight loss is often the visible result. Improved insulin sensitivity is often the invisible cause. Your body almost always becomes healthier before it becomes smaller, and insulin is not working alone. Every major organ participates in this transformation, creating a network of metabolic improvements that reinforce one another every time you walk. To truly understand why daily walking changes insulin so effectively, we have to stop looking at insulin as something controlled by only the pancreas. Insulin is part of a much larger communication network that connects nearly every major metabolic organ in your body. When you walk consistently, that entire network begins functioning more efficiently. Let's begin with your muscles, because they are the largest glucose-consuming organs in the body. Every time your muscles contract, they immediately increase their demand for energy. As thousands of muscle fibers work together, GLUT4 transporters move to the surface of muscle cells, allowing glucose to enter with much less dependence on insulin. Over weeks of regular walking, muscles become even better at storing glycogen and using glucose efficiently. They essentially become larger, more effective energy reservoirs. This means that after meals, more glucose can be directed into muscle tissue instead of remaining in the bloodstream. The pancreas immediately benefits from this change. Normally, when blood sugar rises after eating, the pancreas must release insulin to help move glucose into cells. But if your muscles have become highly responsive because of daily walking, much less insulin is needed to achieve the same result. Think of it as reducing the workload on a machine that has been operating under constant pressure. The insulin-producing beta cells inside the pancreas no longer need to work overtime after every meal. Over months and years, this reduction in workload may help support healthier long-term glucose regulation. Now consider the liver. The liver is responsible for storing glycogen, releasing glucose when necessary, and maintaining stable blood sugar between meals. In people with insulin resistance, the liver often continues releasing glucose even when enough is already present in the bloodstream. Daily walking helps improve communication between insulin and the liver. As muscles remove glucose more efficiently, the liver receives healthier signals and becomes better at balancing glucose production with actual energy demand. It stores glycogen more effectively and experiences less pressure to convert excess glucose into fat. This healthier metabolic environment may reduce the long-term risk of fatty liver while supporting better overall glucose control. Fat tissue also changes its behavior. Fat cells are constantly listening to hormonal signals, especially insulin. When insulin remains elevated throughout the day, fat cells receive a clear message to hold on to stored energy. As insulin becomes lower and more stable through regular walking, fat cells become more willing to release fatty acids into circulation. Those fatty acids can then be transported to working muscles and used as fuel. This process does not happen dramatically after one walk, but repeated day after day, it gradually improves the body's ability to access stored energy. Visceral fat, which surrounds the internal organs, becomes less metabolically stubborn as overall insulin sensitivity improves. The heart and blood vessels quietly support every one of these adaptations. During a moderate walk, the heart pumps more blood with each beat, delivering oxygen and nutrients to working muscles. Blood vessels release nitric oxide, allowing arteries to relax and widen. Better circulation means glucose, oxygen, hormones, and nutrients move more efficiently throughout the body. This improved delivery system helps muscles remove glucose more effectively while reducing unnecessary strain on the cardiovascular system. The brain also plays a surprisingly important role in insulin regulation. Stable blood sugar means the brain receives a more consistent energy supply. Many people notice that after several weeks of regular walking, they experience fewer mood swings, better concentration, and fewer intense food cravings. Walking also helps regulate chronic stress, which is important because elevated cortisol can increase blood sugar and interfere with healthy insulin function. By reducing chronic stress, daily walking indirectly supports healthier glucose regulation throughout the body. Then there are the mitochondria, the microscopic power plants inside nearly every cell. These tiny structures determine how efficiently your body converts nutrients into usable energy. Regular walking stimulates mitochondrial adaptations, making them both more numerous and more efficient. As mitochondrial function improves, muscles become better at burning both glucose and fatty acids. This increased metabolic flexibility allows your body to switch between fuel sources more easily, depending on whether you are eating, fasting, resting, or exercising. Better mitochondria mean better energy production, better endurance, and healthier insulin sensitivity. When you look at the entire picture, a remarkable pattern emerges. Daily walking is not simply helping one hormone. It is strengthening an entire metabolic communication network. Muscles become more efficient glucose users. The pancreas produces less insulin. The liver regulates glucose more effectively. Fat tissue becomes more willing to release stored energy. The heart improves circulation. Blood vessels deliver nutrients more efficiently. The brain stabilizes stress responses. Mitochondria increase the body's ability to produce clean energy. This is why insulin often improves before weight changes. The body's internal communication system becomes healthier first. Only after these systems have spent weeks or months working together more efficiently do the visible changes, such as a smaller waistline or lower body weight, begin to appear. These invisible improvements eventually become obvious in everyday life. You begin feeling different long before you necessarily look different, and those real-world benefits are often much more meaningful than a single number on a bathroom scale. The most exciting part about improving insulin sensitivity is that you often feel the difference before you ever see it. Many people begin walking because they want to lose weight, but after several weeks they notice something unexpected. They wake up with more energy. They no longer feel overwhelmingly sleepy after lunch. Their afternoon cravings become less intense. They can concentrate for longer periods without reaching for another sugary snack. These changes are often the first signs that the body is handling glucose more efficiently. Another common improvement is steadier energy throughout the day. Instead of experiencing dramatic highs and lows after meals, blood sugar remains more stable. Because the pancreas no longer needs to release as much insulin, many people find that they stay satisfied longer between meals. Hunger becomes more predictable instead of feeling urgent or uncontrollable. Over time, laboratory markers may also begin reflecting these internal improvements. Fasting blood glucose may become healthier. Post-meal glucose spikes may become smaller. Triglyceride levels may improve. Waist circumference often begins decreasing gradually, even before dramatic weight loss occurs. Many people also notice better endurance, healthier sleep, improved mood, and greater confidence in their daily activities. Unfortunately, many people never realize these victories because they make one critical mistake. They judge their progress only by body weight. If the scale does not move after 2 or 3 weeks, they conclude that walking is not working. In reality, their insulin sensitivity may already be improving significantly. Another common mistake is walking inconsistently. 3 long walks followed by 4 inactive days send a much weaker metabolic signal than shorter walks performed almost every day. The body adapts best to regular repetition. Some people walk too slowly for only a few minutes and expect major metabolic improvements. Others finish a healthy walk only to reward themselves with high-sugar drinks or processed snacks that create large glucose and insulin spikes. Poor sleep, low protein intake, inadequate fiber, chronic stress, and dehydration can also reduce the full metabolic benefits of daily walking. Many people never measure anything except body weight. They ignore changes in waist circumference, fasting glucose, daily energy, appetite, mood, sleep quality, and physical endurance. These markers often improve first because they reflect healthier metabolism rather than simply lower body mass. Perhaps the most overlooked misunderstanding is believing that a normal blood sugar reading automatically means insulin is healthy. In the early stages of insulin resistance, blood sugar may remain perfectly normal because the pancreas is producing extra insulin behind the scenes. Walking helps address this underlying problem by making the body more responsive to insulin, instead of simply forcing the pancreas to work harder. Instead of asking yourself, "How much weight did I lose this week?" try asking a different question. Is my body becoming more efficient at using insulin? That question reflects real metabolic progress, and it often predicts the visible changes that will follow if you remain consistent. Now let's finish by turning everything we've learned into a simple daily routine that anyone can begin. The good news is that improving insulin sensitivity does not require extreme workouts or expensive equipment. One of the simplest plans is also one of the most effective. Aim to walk for 30 to 45 minutes every day, or at least 5 days each week. Choose a moderate pace where you can still speak in short sentences but would find it difficult to sing. That pace creates the steady metabolic demand your muscles need to improve glucose uptake and reduce insulin demand. If possible, add a 10 to 20-minute walk after meals. This simple habit can help reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes while allowing your muscles to absorb glucose more efficiently. Combine your walking routine with protein-rich meals, plenty of fiber, resistance training 2 or 3 times each week, good hydration, and consistent, high-quality sleep. Together, these habits create a powerful foundation for long-term metabolic health. The most important lesson from today's video is this: daily walking may not change your weight immediately, but it can begin changing your insulin almost from the very first walk. As insulin sensitivity improves, your muscles, liver, pancreas, blood vessels, mitochondria, and brain all begin working together more efficiently. Those invisible improvements eventually become visible through better energy, healthier blood sugar, a smaller waistline, and lasting metabolic health. If you enjoyed this science-based explanation, leave a comment below and tell us what you currently track most closely: your body weight, your waist measurement, or your blood sugar. We'd love to hear your experience. And if you want more evidence-based videos about walking, insulin, blood sugar, visceral fat, intermittent fasting, metabolism, and healthy aging, be sure to subscribe and join us for our next episode.